Hello, everyone, and welcome to this third episode of the Fans of DC Universe podcast, the only place where members of the DC Universe can come together to talk about what they are reading, watching, and more. Joining us today are me, Nathan.Payson, Donnell.
Hello.
And New 52.
Hi.
Today we are talking about Comic-Con's various announcements, Swamp Thing Episode 7 and 8, and Young Justice Episode 18, and Batman Beyond Remastered. But before we start, our hearts go out to Warren Appleby, a stunt coordinator on Titans, who died after a stunt went wrong. For the next 4 weeks, we'll be having a moment of silence in honor of him. Please take a second for a moment of silence. Thank you. Now let's talk about some news. That's a horrible transition. Okay. New comics have come to DC Universe this weekend, this week, including Detective Comics number 984, which is The Outsiders Returning, Attorney Girl number 5, Flash number 50, The End of Flash War, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps number 48, part of the Dark Stars arc, Hawkman number 2, Immortal Men number 4, Plastic Man number 2, Red Hood and the Outlaws number 24, Sideways number 6, Suicide Squad number 44, which is under construction, Superman number 1, the start of the Unity Saga, Titans number 23, start of Abnett's Run, Wildstorm Michael Cray number 9, Wonder Woman number 50, which is the end of the run, and newly digitized include Aaron the Immortal number 4, Detective Comics number 317, Doom Patrol number 7, Hour Man 1999 number 13 and 14, House of Secrets number 103, Johnny Thunder number 2, LAW number 1, and Superman Presents the Phantom Zone number 2. Okay, so what have you guys read off this list?
All right, New 52. Also, what are we planning to read? New 52, I'll let you go first.
I've read Wonder Woman 50, which deals with the conclusion of the Dark Gods, and I'm planning on reading Eternity Girl when number 6 hits DC Universe.
Awesome. So here's a good question. So the end of the run, number 1 through 50, is a full run on Wonder Woman, right? So what are your thoughts on the overall run? Is it worth the read? Is it something you should hold back on?
For most people, it will be worth the read. It's something that, from what I understand, everybody enjoyed. I personally don't care for the Rebirth Wonder Woman, but I'm still reading because it's Wonder Woman.
That makes absolute
Question for you, New 52. I noticed there's a Jason in that story, and I believe a Jason in your fan fiction. Are they the same Jason?
No, they're not. In my fan fiction, Wonder Woman names my Jason after her brother.
That's what I thought, and I figured there was a connection. So she really does have a brother named Jason now.
Yes, and this issue tackles why he's around. So number 50 is important if you care at all to learn about Jason and all that.
I did start reading it a little, and I also am a big James Robinson fan. I honestly was unaware he was writing Wonder Woman for a while.
Is it worth it? So if you want to get just some sense of where current Wonder Woman is it worth it to start at the beginning of Dark Gods, which is number 43, I think, and then going all the way to 50? Or is it better to start at the beginning?
If you're going to start this Wonder Woman run, you can go ahead and just skip it and start at this point. But really, this is only going to be sort of a follow-up to Metal.
Right, it is. Yeah, that's why I was asking if it would work as a jump-on point.
So if you're only reading Metal and then you want to start reading Wonder Woman, it's a perfect jump-on point. You don't need to know everything from number 1.
That's awesome.
I have another question. Yeah. Well, what about Eternity Girl? You mentioned you're going to read number 6. So you've read Eternity Girl 1 through 5?
Oh, no, I'm going to start reading it when number 6 hits DC Universe.
Did you read the first Eternity Girl?
No.
Okay, yeah, because there's one before that, which I think is on DC Universe.
Okay.
If I'm remembering, or else I may be very confused, because there's 2 series. Maybe the other one's called Eternity Woman. I have to go back and look all this up. I enjoyed the very first Eternity Girl series. It's a riot. The second one, not so much. But now I'm scratching my head trying to think which is which, because I also use Comixology Unlimited.
So I'm looking at DCU right now. I do not see an Eternity Woman. There's a Manifest Eternity, but that's the closest I can get.
How many Eternity Girls are there?
1.
Well, to be continued. Maybe if I get a chance while we're chatting, I'll look.
Hmm.
I'll see what it was I was reading on Comixology. Because again, the first one was great. There was one I've been reading where it's just super depressing and not nearly the fun that the first one. Anyway,
Do you think it's just the same title, but like same name,
it's
but different publisher?
it's the very same character. It's the one that is an offshoot from Shade the Changing Man.
Oh, you mean no? The sequel to that is Shade the Changing Woman. Eternity was like a new series.
I may be crazy then. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's good news, I guess.
Eternity Girl was just nominated for an Eisner Award this year.
It was. Speaking of Eisners, congrats to Mr. Miracle. Good job.
Yeah, congrats. They won big.
DC, you, please bring Mr. Miracle so that everyone can enjoy PTSD at its finest.
This is the Eternity Girl I was reading. Yeah, the one that you guys are talking about. And I'm pretty sure it's the same one I was reading. Yeah, Young Animal, exactly. And she was also in the Milk Wars. And there was a previous thing of this. This is like a second doing, if you will. But now I got to go find all this for you. This is fun. But continue, please. Don't mind me. I'll just keep muttering.
So I just wanted to highlight this little thing for anyone reading. Titans number 23 is the official real start of Dan Abnett's run on Titans. However, it's very weird because the entire thing takes place after Teen Titans Volume 1, but Teen Titans Volume 1 hasn't even started yet. So it's this weird thing where the two are like, where you get like the after before the before, and it's throwing me off so much. So maybe hold off on Titans until after Teen Titans Volume 1 is started. I also read Superman number 1 this week, which is the start of Bendis' Superman run, or not the run of the Superman comic specifically, and it's a 15 or 14 issue story called The Unisaga, which covers Rogol Zar, Jor-El, John, and Supergirl, and so it's sort of the tie-in to everything. It's the closest to like it's where Supergirl intersect and John will come back and all that, but it's not as good as the Action Comics number 1 or 1001. Action Comics is really good, but Superman's number is like because Rogol Zar is not that interesting. Anyway, let's move on. You want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if any of you are reading Sideways.
I was planning on reading it this week, and then I got sidetracked with Comic-Con.
I've been reading some of Sideways. I read the first probably 3 issues when it was a part of those Walmart 100-page giants in the back. The art throws me off a little, but then I saw there's a neat thing with an annual or something where the New 52 Superman shows up. So I have been setting it aside to read more.
All right, thanks.
I'm read 1 through 5. I haven't started 6 yet. I was going to review it this week, but I got really busy because I was on vacation. But I'm hoping to read Sideways number 6. This is a quick, interesting question. Do you think Sideways is the best new character of the New Age of Heroes?
Oh, no, I would say the Terrifics. And of course, that bears out by the fact they're the only ones that continue to be published.
So if you have to read one New 52 title, you recommend reading The Terrifics?
Oh, well, no, you don't mean New 52. You mean New Age of Heroes.
Yeah, sorry. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. Yeah, so New Age of Heroes. Yeah, The Terrifics is just wonderful. Like I say, it's got that dash of the ancestor of Phantom Girl from Legion of Superheroes, but it's also does a real nice job with several other characters I love, like Metamorpho.
Great. That's great to hear. So let's move on. So this week on DC Universe, Swamp Thing episode 8 and Young Justice episode 18 came out. We also didn't get a chance to talk about episode 7 yet. So did you all of you guys caught up on Swamp Thing, or where are you guys at?
Yeah, I'm caught up.
Don, are you skipping out right now?
I'm skipping out on so Young Justice and Swamp Thing. I'm totally drowning. Go ahead.
Okay, so New 52, is it just me? Or is Swamp Thing starting to fall apart?
I haven't been feeling Swamp Thing since the very beginning. I know a lot of people love it, and I can understand why, but it's just not for me. I'm figuring that out.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with Swamp Thing is episode 7 and 8 kind of cemented this, is none of them, like, I love the side characters, but all the side characters are starting to disappear for, like, the final plot. Like, I want, like, what happened to Madame Xanadu and Blue Devil? Like, this whole big thing where Blue Devil was burning up, and now it's, like, 4 days later, and we've not even touched that plot, you know? And there's only 2 more episodes left.
And it makes it feel like it was a waste of time that could have gone to Abby and Swampy because they're just not building on those characters that we already spent so much time on, or that keep like showing up and having a few scenes here and there. But I still feel like I don't even know most of the characters who they really are. Like we just lost Harlan in one of these last episodes, and do I really care?
Like, why did Harlan even re-show up? And it's like a third love interest, like, to Abby. It's like everyone flirts with Abby. It's like,
Well, he's not a third love interest. He's a best friend because he's gay, remember?
yeah, but there's this weird sexual. I forgot he was gay, but there's this weird sexual tension that goes on between the two of them, where like
I,
he's like touching her nose and stuff, like and flirting, and it's very weird.
oh, I didn't pick up on that probably because I already had it in my mind that he is gay.
That makes sense. I didn't realize. I forgot he was gay, but and which is I guess problematic because if I don't remember he's gay, it's clearly not important. Like the character's just not important to like the story, you know? Because like that being like knowing who someone like the sexuality is like not a small detail, especially in an age of LGBTQ representation needing to be more. Also, Liz has like dropped out as well. So Madame Xanadu has like done nothing. Daniel Cassidy has done nothing. Liz has just dropped off the map as well. Like in episode 6 or 7, in episode 7, there was like one image of her where she's like, "Where's Abby?" And they're like, "She's left."
And that's supposed to be her best friend, and she can't even get a text or a call?
Yeah, it's like, and meanwhile, we're going over to the CDC and we're introducing new characters. It's like
And I did appreciate them having that little call out moment where the doctor tells Abby that she spends most of her time at the swamp and not at the hospital, because throughout the season, I kept telling myself that, like, why is she never in the hospital and just at the swamp during the night?
I agree. I just wish that that moment was like found a better way to connect more with what's going on in Murray, because I just feel like we don't need more characters introduced right now, especially because they cut 3 episodes. They need to be building towards the end and making sure all the plots are wrapping up, especially when we're not getting a renewal. So I'm starting to get worried that just it'll feel like the plots just won't end and it'll be this weird ending.
Yeah, I feel I feel that they are going to connect, especially because it is the Conclave and they're pretty much setting them up as the villains of the season. So I feel that that's why they're coming in now. And even though it does feel a little rushed, they're going to be playing a big role at the end.
The one redeeming thing is, do you know what episode 9 is called?
No.
Episode 9 is called The Anatomy Lesson. And for anyone who knows what that is, that's the very first issue of Alan Moore's run, and is maybe the best Swamp Thing comic of all time. This best single issue. Do you remember this one?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's the start of the run of Alan Moore's run, where Woodrew's going through the Swamp Thing and comes to the conclusion. I'm going to spoil this real quick. That Swamp Thing's actually a plant who thinks he's a human, but he's not actually. But he's not. He's just a bunch like sentient plant, and it's one of the coolest issues. Go back and reread it. It's Swamp Thing. It's the Saga of the Swamp Thing number 21. You will really like it, and it's very emotional and arguably one of the best comics of the era. Just individual issues, and so I'm excited because if you've read any bit of Saga of the Swamp Thing, you will be really excited for episode 9, which is called The Anatomy Lesson. So if you had to read one comic next week, please read Saga of the Swamp Thing number 21. You won't regret it. Let's move on to Young Justice. I'm sorry, Donnell.
Yeah, I had all these other comics I could have talked about. Well, maybe some other.
Well, we can talk. We can go back and talk about the comic.
No. Please continue. We're on the clock, buddy.
But we just have so much Comic-Con stuff, so we're trying to move forward. We can come back at the end, though. Young Justice episode 18 features Garfield Logan again, and he's going to Cuba, and we learn what Project Rutabaga is. Just any quick thoughts on it, New 52?
I thought it was fun getting to see Zatanna and Clarion again. So I also am enjoying the new team, the Outsider team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that they're getting a lot more screen time.
Yeah, one thing I really appreciate is Clarion's such a fun character, and the thing I realized with Young Justice is that it has this great little thing where it keeps these villains reoccurring every season, and it makes these minor villains like Clarion's never really mattered in the DC universe in comparison to a lot of the other villains, but it gives Clarion like an opportunity to shine every time, and he's such a fun character when he shows up. He's like a kid, but he's like the most terrifying kid of all time.
So you're talking about the Witch
different
Boy?
This season.
Yes, Witch Boy. Clarion, the Witch Boy.
He seems really different this season, too.
Yeah, but he's still just as immature. And my favorite part of the episode 18 is if you stay through the credits, the entire time you just hear Clarion teleporting, and they be like, "Oh, come on!" because he's in the Tower of Fate. And it was like, and it keeps happening over the entire credits. And it was so funny. And the cat's just like, meow.
Yeah, I never skip the credits.
They're such a sad credit though. Like they're generally just really sad. Like whatever that music is. And it's which is kind of funny. Okay, so let's move on to Comic-Con because I can tell Donnell's like, I want to talk. Okay, so
no, I'm enjoying ice cream actually, but go ahead.
You are? What type of ice cream?
Oh, my favorites. Just lots of chocolate and cookies and cream and fun stuff. Go ahead, please.
Now everyone who's listening is hungry. So we're going to go in order from first announcement to last announcement. So the big Doom Patrol, Titans, all that stuff will be at the end. So first announcement is Batman Beyond is getting a remastered release to celebrate the landmark series' 20th anniversary. This is coming from IGN. Of the 52 Batman Beyond episodes, 41 have been fully remastered from the original 35mm film, which is done by removing the film grain for better color, removing dust and dirt, and enhancing the resolution. There's 11 episodes, however, which have been damaged over time, meaning that they have been smart res, resulting in a better image than the original, but not as advanced as the fully remastered version. Ahead of the retail release, Season 1 will be available on DC Universe's app starting on August 23rd. So this came out of nowhere. So what are your thoughts on the remaster?
Well, wasn't Batman Beyond already on the service?
It is on the service, but it's in the original film version. It's not been remastered. So what's happening is they're replacing the original one with the remastered version, which is the same thing. It's just that looks better.
I mean, I'm a big Batman Beyond fan, and I love the stuff where they go past what the almost broken record that we're on, and where the stuff from 60 years ago is still trying to be present. It's nice when they go to the next step of what should happen after the current heroes get old. Yeah, so we'll be sure to check that out. Who knows? Maybe we'll do some watch-alongs on it.
Mm-hmm. So for anyone who's curious, two things before we move on. IGN has a wonderful video where they do a side-by-side comparison of the two, so you can really tell. It's a lot sharper. Like if you look at the two images, the remaster is sharper and has slightly better colors. It's not it's like a 3D graphics thing. It's just like an HD version, and they'll make the whole thing just feel like it's like it'll still feel old, but but the art style won't feel old technology wise. It'll just be the art style's old. It won't be like this is really weird. The film, it won't look like the film itself is old. So it's just like a touch up. But the first season will be available on August 23rd, and expect the rest of it to be showing up. The rest of the season to be showing up around October. So also at Comic-Con, DC announced the Superman Red Sun animated film coming in early 2020. So what are your thoughts? Red Sun, yes or no?
New 52, have you encountered the story Superman Red Sun?
I'll say yes because I haven't read it, but I've heard a lot of it, so I can't wait to experience it, especially after the last season of Supergirl.
Oh yeah, because Supergirl did the Red Daughter line. Yeah, I really like that line.
same, sort of same. I mean, actually radically different, right? But in Superman and Red Sun, there isn't two Supermen, right? It's just Superman brought up by communists or whatever. And what does that mean? And where would he end up? There's another storyline where he's brought up to be a Nazi. There's another like Chris Claremont. So it's interesting when people do that, because we all think he should be American. Well, what if he wasn't? How would that look to us? How would we feel having something that powerful with another country that we aren't fully comfortable with their culture? Yeah, so yeah, very much looking forward to it. I really, again, hope they do a limited theater release through Fathom again, because it's just so much fun to see it on the too.
That's awesome. One thing I love about Red Sun so much is you guys hopefully will like it a lot too. But Red Sun is one of those comics which keeps Superman, who Superman is. His heart is still there, but it's a Russian heart. So you still feel like you're rooting for Superman. Whereas like with the Nazi one, you're just like, this is a bad Superman. Like you don't feel like there's nothing redeemable about them. With the Red Sun Superman, you're like, you feel like he is a communist, but he wants to do good. He does good, and he's still Superman. And you feel yourself quietly rooting for him and rooting against America, which is kind of a funny thing. Red Sun, by the way, is also on DC Universe,
Right.
and it's an Elseworld. So I think it's in the Elseworld section. I think I'm gonna go check that right
What's
now.
nice with the search, you can just type Red Sun and it'll come up.
Okay, so it is. The miniseries
Remind
is
us who wrote
individual.
it. Who is the writer and artist?
It was written by Mark Miller, and art was done by Dave Johnson.
All right, so Dave Johnson. I'm thinking he's the one that normally does a lot of the Hellboy stuff. I might be wrong, but I know Mark Miller, of course, has done a lot for Marvel. He's done some. If you look at his bibliography, he's a real smart, sharp writer.
Okay, for those curious, he did Lucifer. He did Lucifer, and I'm trying to figure out which Lucifer it is. I think it's the current Lucifer, but I'm not certain. I am sorry, I'm trying to figure that out. So he did the 2015 Lucifer. So if that helps people, he also did Coffin Hill and War of the Green Lanterns Aftermath. Those are probably the easiest ones for people to identify.
Well, he was big with the Ultimates. That was one of the big ones, right? So the Ultimates reads a lot like the Authority. In fact, he also did the Authority and Civil War. So that great movie Civil War is based on what he wrote. So yeah, he's a pretty big wheel.
Right, and that's the artist, and then Mark Miller will give you more information on later. But
actually, I was talking about Mark Miller, by the way. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about Mark. So Mark Miller wrote Civil War. He wrote Ultimates. He wrote The Authority. So he likes to do those.
Yeah, so both of them are awesome though, and they're both really good at what they do. It's one of those great creative teams, and the costume is one of those that people still go back to. Is like this is like it still feels like Superman, but it's a unique Superman. You can tell it's different. For example,
I'm pretty sure that they modeled the one on Supergirl this season on what they did for Red Sun Superman.
Yes, they did. My biggest complaint with Red Daughter's costume is they only use her like Red Daughter costume for like 30 seconds.
Right, I know.
Yeah. Do you know if this movie is gonna
kill her?
Do you know if this movie is gonna take place in the animated universe that they've set up?
I would assume not, because it's an Elseworld, and it's just going to be very hard to do so. Because Superman has to be born in Russia, and I think that'll be problematic to do. I think it'll be a little closer in line to something like Batman Ninja, which isn't really in the animated universe.
Well, it's going to be a lot like what you're going to have us watch in a few minutes, New 52.
For those who are curious, they're watching Gods and Monsters after the podcast is over, which should be fun.
You didn't invite Nathan.
I know, right? I'm so hurt. But I gotta figure it out. I still have to do some work for DC Universe.
New 52, you promise?
What? Red Sun. I know. Red Sun animated film is coming in early 2020, and then after that will be Justice League Dark 2. I don't remember what it's called, and then a Superman movie, which is in the animated universe, I think. Okay, so starting with Young Justice, so we're moving on to the DC Universe panel. Young Justice has been renewed. Season 4 will focus on Apocalypse and Garfield Logan and the power of social media. So let's talk about it. So what should Young Justice Season 4 be called, given this information?
Why do I keep somebody talking about? I kept seeing you or somebody. They kept saying Young Justice Rebirth.
So that's what I was thinking the title will be called. But the focus is on Apocalypse, which means it's not going to be Rebirth. I was thinking that because a couple big things happen for Rebirth. One of which is Wally is going to return, which I assume will happen at some point. You have the build up with the Watchmen, where they were like, "But who watches the Watchmen?" Which Lex Luthor said, which is totally like, what? But I think they're going to hold off on Rebirth because it seems like they're going to keep going on the Apocalypse storyline, which I don't think is a bad thing because I think they're going to start running out of stories to tell pretty quickly at the rate they're going. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, they need to start slowing down. So I think going and continuing the Apocalypse story and maybe finishing it off would be a great use of season 4. Also, it seems
what do you think of maybe the title? It could be called Fred Bug Revealed.
Wait, how would that even work? Is it just the title is like Fred Bug with 2 G's, like revealing that he's Fred Bug with 2 G's?
Or that he's something else, Apocalypse. Maybe this whole time he's been super evil, like there's another Strel down low.
So you're saying Forager is Apocalypse, is like Darkseid?
Well, not Darkseid, but an agent of. I was just kidding. But
that would be so entertaining. He's just like,
I know.
I'm
like,
Darkseid.
Oh, Fred Bug, I love everybody, but I'm plotting to kill you all.
And you all thought it was Tara, but it's me.
Is it Tara or Tara?
Well, it's Tara is her name, and Tara is her code name.
Why? That's genuinely confusing.
Who knows?
One thing I'm looking forward to is Garfield Logan is going to be a major focus. And it's really nice because part 2 of season 3 has been about Garfield Logan sort of coming out on his own. For example, they removed that hideous monkey costume thing that he was doing and like gave him like an actual like polished look and which is so wonderful. And then they're focusing a lot right now on creating the Outsiders. So it seems like it'll be like an extension of Outsiders rather than like a new season.
Yeah, I hope there's not a huge time jump. I really hope it's just picking up where this season leaves off, actually.
I don't think that there needs to be a time jump, especially because
I've heard
there's so
lots
much
of
going
rumors
on.
there will be a time jump, though. Once again, I did hear there's going to be a time jump.
But how long? How long?
Nobody knows.
How long? How long should the time jump? Could the time jump even be? Because they still haven't explained why McGann is being White Martian. They haven't explained a bunch of other stuff with the Batman Incorporated. So I feel like they just have so much to cover still that I don't think they're ready.
The clock's ticking, but your mention of Garfield Logan, I assume this is also Beast Boy, right? We're talking about the same guy.
Yeah.
So in the real DC Universe comic books, we were talking on Discord a while back, he never changes. If you read the Garfield Logan of the 1962 whatever Doom Patrol, when he first shows up and there's the wedding of Mento, etc., he's pretty much the same guy today that he was then. He's hardly grown up at all. Whereas the others have kind of gotten married or gotten older, Robin and all the rest of them. So it's just interesting. What I love about Young Justice again is it takes things like that and makes him grow, right? Suddenly, unlike what DC been willing to do in the real comics that we read, suddenly he's a different character. But also the fact that Young Justice puts mankind in outer space, which we would be if there were really superheroes, right, running around in spaceships. Why on earth wouldn't they share that with mankind and allow us to have a colony on Mars by now? Which, again, the comics don't do that. They act like, oh, well, too bad, Martian Manhunter can catch a ride, but everybody else has to stay stuck on the Earth while we're dying of our toxic fumes.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, I just want to welcome one more person on because I know because New 52 has to leave soon, so I figured we'd have one more person show up. Please welcome Dukect45.
It's Duke CT, but hey, whatever you call me, I'm
Oh,
happy to
well.
be called.
Duke, it's been a while. Good to hear you, buddy.
Welcome,
Yeah, I've
Duke.
been busy. Family, reunions, and trips, and all that good stuff. It's been a great couple weeks, but I missed y'all. So what is the big stories that are coming out? And especially there supposedly was a Comic-Con that came out. So, yeah,
So
I just wanna see what-
we're talking about Young Justice season 4 right now. Do you have any
the
title
show-
wishes? Yeah.
The show that could. And it's amazing how, and that that when I was always watched it when I could get a chance. Now I'm watching season 3 part 2. It's really good stuff, and the way they, oh man, the twists and turns. It's always interesting about how they did all this stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Do you have a title desire? Like something you want it to be called?
Well, let's see. Young Justice. Well, I think 4 is but if I would have a title, I would probably call it see, we have Outsiders, Young
So
Justice Invasion, Outsiders, and
what
what
about
would be
Dark Side? Like Young Justice Dark Side? Would that be too on the
Dark
nose?
Side? Too much. I would say Young Justice, New Gods.
I feel it
Ooh,
would have to do something with the tournament that's going on between the worlds, right? Between Apocalypse and Earth.
like War of
the Universal Tournament or something like that.
Is it called the Olympics by chance?
I feel like there's what's the story? Is it Legends where it's like the gods where Darkseid invades or whatever? Oh wait, no, I know what it is. It'll be Final Crisis.
Final Crisis.
Yeah. Because Darkseid's going to invade. It's also not very well received story, which Young Justice is great at fixing. And so Young Justice could redeem it very well. Also, if season 3 is about him getting the anti-life equation, which would make sense because there's the secret message in the titles, which is prepare the anti-life. I feel like it'll be a Final Crisis adaptation.
And who is going to be the what will be the who's going to be the main character be on the hero? Because I honestly,
Garfield, right? Garfield, right? Because they've said it's going to focus on Garfield Logan, right?
That's an interesting twist. You would think after all that, it would probably, because I think they're probably a little bit tired of, like, say, putting it on, Grayson and all the core people in the Young Justice thing. It's kind of interesting. They're going to put it on Garfield, Logan, Beast Boy, Changeling, and such. Part of me thought it was going to be Cyborg, since all the tech from New Genesis and all that type of stuff, which I would not be surprised that could be,
Well, moving on, Titan Season 2 is coming September 6th. What do you guys want to see from the trailer? I know there's leaked photos of the team, where Dick Grayson is still Robin, and there's a leaked photo of Deathstroke. But what else do you guys want to see from a trailer?
I can't wait to see... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I can't wait to see Hawk and Dove interacting with Donna, because I assume they know each other since they knew Dick before. So that will be a fun little interaction. I also want to see Starfire and Beast Boy interact with Hawk and Dove.
Oh yeah, I want to see more interactions and not only that, more. I want them actually being a lot more positive and a lot more, because I think that mood lighting and such, I can't go back to that. I can't go back to that type of gritty production type of thing, because when I look at, say, for example, Doom Patrol which supposedly takes in the same universe that's happening with Titans. And way they shot that, I'm not saying it should be the same way, but I want it to be something that is, more positive, more upbeat, because it would seem to be so. Season 1 to me was too much of a cluster. I think
I
that was the
don't mind.
problem.
Yeah, I don't mind the sullen aspect to it. I just do wish it's a little bit more cinematic like Doom Patrol.
So I can
And
confirm.
more focused.
I can confirm, by the way, that that Titans is going to be better looking. Everyone's been was talking about how it looked way better and how they removed the blue screen. So my understanding is it will look nicer and be less moody, which is such a good thing because I think Titans is one of those shows which is really great, but it's like darkness is what's holding it back, and it's because there's just too much and it feels forced. Whereas Doom Patrol is like the darkness is half the like the dark moments are half the fun, and they're more intentional. It feels like with Titan, it's dark to be dark.
They're more earned in Doom Patrol. It's felt more. It was consistent. Sure, someone said it ran a little long, but to me, Titans was so unfocused. Doom Patrol is focused. Swamp Thing right now with all the decisions, it's focused. It has all the plot points are coming in together, and there's a current theme going. Titans didn't have that theme, and my hope is that with this show, Doom Patrol season 2, and heck, when Stargirl comes around, hopefully next year, we'll have more consistent themes and more. What is the more of a like overarching stories and such, that sort of thing.
I feel it would, especially since Titans had all of the foundation there and all of the pieces that could lead to that. And now after all of the shows that they've done, it's no longer the first show. It's now the second season. They have everything in place. They have more of a focus from the casting department. It seems like the characters that they're introducing have a purpose narratively that you can see without even knowing the story yet. So I have high hopes for Titans too.
So I do want to say this because I found this really fascinating. I was reading an interview with the directors of Titans, and one of the things they said is that season 1 was Dick's story. Or no, my fault. It wasn't Dick's story. It was Raven's story. And so the reason why it was so dark is because Raven is a naturally dark character. And the reason why the other big focus was Dick Grayson was because they wanted a character who could have a story arc that was very much like that. And so Beast Boy, for example, can't really have a dark storyline. Starfire is not a dark character. So that's why the focus on the first season was on those two. So what I think will happen is season 2 won't be that story. It'll be maybe Beast Boy's story, or it could, because, I feel like it'll be someone else's story. And so then the mirroring will be a little brighter, just as because that's how the first season was.
Oh, yes. I think it'll be more. I wouldn't be surprised that it will probably shift more. Funny enough, it's probably going to be more of a Dick Grayson story because, who is, Deathstroke, Deathstroke the Terminator or whatever you want to call him, Slade or anything else is connected to Robin and Nightwing. My hope is after the season 2 premiere, which honestly, I just wish that it will be something so good that actually will somewhat redeem the season 1 finale, because after that season 1 finale, it was...
Yeah.
If there was a list of worst season finales, I think that would be up there. But hopefully, they said they were working on this stuff. The writers are saying we're going to work something really good for season 2, this beginning of season 2. And hopefully, maybe we'll have something more of a joyful tone and more of a positive thing at the end of the day. Because I think Titans can tell dark stories. But the way they did it, it was so... I think it was misguided. And it cluttered, unfocused, and I think season 2 will probably be more what season 1 should have been, if you understand what I'm saying. But I think it should have been more of a more positive show that you can have. If I talked about this many times, talking about Titans, you can have dark elements. Heck, you can look at Daredevil. That was a dark show, but the difference was about the characters in it were positive and hopeful. with Titans, it wasn't really that much positive and hope.
Yeah,
And
Don, did you have a thought?
Well,
It's
yeah,
fine.
and I'm going to have to leave here in a minute, but and again, Duke, it's great having you here with us today. Certainly, I'm looking forward to Titans again because of Hawk and Dove. I think they have the best costumes, they have the best story in many ways. I'm also crazy to see Aqualad Lad and all these other Connell and of course Crypto, crazy stuff coming. And like you, Duke, I'm hoping it's a lot more positive and upbeat. It doesn't have to be quite as grim and gritty as what we saw last time, perhaps. But yeah, I've got nothing but good expectations for what's coming, and I love what I'm seeing so far from the takes and all that.
So, real quick, because New 52 and Donnell are going to leave, I want to jump to Doom Patrol Season 2. We can come back to Titans. But let's jump to Doom Patrol Season 2, which is renewed. So, what do you guys want to see?
I am so happy that it is. Questions, I don't know who's going to be the central bad guy, because that's one of my worst, because again, Mr. Nobody is gone, maybe, but I don't want him to be retreading about Mr. Nobody and such. So I don't know what you can do with this type of maybe internal drama, but other
Maybe.
than that, I don't think what is going to be the main villain. Maybe the
Exactly. We don't know much of what could be in a season 2. So I'm just going to go and say that I want to see more interactions between characters that we didn't see. So maybe like Crazy Jane and Larry, we didn't see too much of.
Oh, yeah.
Like Robot Man and Larry, Robot Man and Rita, we didn't see too much of those interactions. I want to see a change up because I do also want to see Larry and Rita's friendship grow and Robot Man and Jane's friendship grow, but I do want to see them mix it up. And I want to know what's going to happen with Cyborg. Is he going to go off to Titans? Is he going to stay there and continue to grow there? He's interesting to me because I don't know how he fits there, but he fits really well so far.
And the daughter, Dorothy, she has such crazy powers.
Right. Yeah.
That's going to be fun. And also, they're 6 inches tall. I hope they keep them that way for the first 6 episodes.
That's a little too long. I think maybe an episode or two, because it can drag, which one of the problems of the first season of Doom Patrol, the episodes, I love it, but it seemed to drag. It seems like some of the stuff dragged on a little too long. So I think maybe they should cut it down to maybe not 13 or maybe 15 episodes. I think maybe 12 or 11 episodes.
And the big question, right, is are they going to continue using the Grant Morrison canon, or are they going to go to some of the other iterations of Doom Patrol, which they did a little last time? Wouldn't it be crazy if they went full out on something besides the wild and wacky Morrison stuff?
I think they'll stick with Morrison just because of 2 things. One, Mr. Nobody still has the Brotherhood of Dada, which is his superhero teams mix-up. And the other big thing they have still going is Dorothy, which is very much a Morrison character. And so I think just by those 2 things alone, they're going to stick a little bit or the same amount with Morrison. The big characters they could introduce, Scissorman would be a great villain. You have Red Jack, who's the guy who's the butterfly collector who just loves butterflies way too much. And so I think there are plenty of characters to still use, and I think Brotherhood of Dada would be probably the best one.
And with that, I have to, like Mr. Nobody, I have to disappear. Catch you guys later.
Bye.
All right, bye.
And then New 52, you're heading out, right?
Yeah, before I do, I just want to say Harley Quinn looks amazing and the animation looks stunning. Bye, everyone.
Bye. We'll talk about it next week. I'm sorry. Okay, so continuing with Doom Patrol, we were talking about the Mr. Nobody being stuck in the painting. Is there any idea on how they could get him out of the painting?
That's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be they want to get him out. I think he's stuck there because, that nuclear blast probably fried his powers and such. So, or maybe it's slowly coming back. Maybe that's the beginning of season 2. It's season 3 is the revenge of Mr. Nobody. Who knows?
And Revenge of the Sith, Revenge of the Nobody. Okay, I think that would work. I do feel like Morrison has something with paintings, like paintings in Paris or something. I feel like this is just my theorizing. Maybe there's some superhero or a supervillain who's the painting bringer to life, who like brings paintings to life. I feel like that would be wild and wacky and could be a great way to get Mr. Nobody back. Because Doom Patrol loves to be weird.
So yeah, but then again, it would be really, I don't know, kind of just like, well, they already got past it. You don't want to quote yourself. Like, okay, we have to just bring back the villain that everyone, even though we've moved on mostly and such. And besides, one thing I think about Doom Patrol is like, how are they gonna deal with Niles Calder after all that was happened to him and everything else? I mean,
well, maybe it can be like a redemptive arc. Like he's hit rock bottom. He's lost the trust of everyone. Now he has to work his way back up. And especially with having his daughter, I think that's a great chance to show that he's still human. And I think Doom Patrol would work really well if it really focused on the Chief and his daughter, because that's a comparison that we've only sort of seen parallels to, and could be really interesting because, well, Cliff is trying to figure out what's going on with his daughter. The Chief can start to be with his daughter, and because Cliff sort of has this relationship where like father's-daughter relationship with Jane, sort of, and so I think that could work.
Yeah, that would be something interesting to see.
Now, have you seen the Harley Quinn animated series trailer?
Oh yes, I saw it multiple times. It's interesting.
It's so good.
Honestly, it's something I thought that they said this was going to be like Deadpool and such show, and I think that's something that people really. I thought that would be dead. I like if Deadpool was going to have a show, this would be it. So yeah, I think that's I think that's something is I can't wait to see it. It's gonna be
thank goodness.
Halloween, the show. I think that it's coming on December, which is
it or November. It's unclear. What we do know though is that this is actually really fascinating. It took they've been developing this thing for 3 full years. They spent 6 months on the pilot alone. Just think about that for a second.
Yeah, I would not be surprised.
Isn't that crazy?
Animation. Well, again, animation and knowing how to get the right character beats, what type of stuff, what type of version of Harley Quinn that they're going to be so pro, Mr. J and all that type of stuff are made more. And there's so many ways to go in the pilot and such. But it is, and when you look at like the way that medium is you can't have a bad first impression. First impressions are important, and they probably sat there and say, how can we make this show seem so fun and adult, but also make sure it's not, totally just like, out there.
Yeah, and one thing I'm really looking forward to
and part of me wishes that it wasn't adults only, because I think a show like this, kids would love something like this. I think kids would love something like a Harley Quinn.
But I don't mind that it's not kid focused. I think because part of what DC Universe does is it's not a kid show, and then Stargirl's really the first thing that they're even calling something like young adult. It's the only one they're calling young adult. And actually, I have a fun thing I learned about Stargirl recently as like an exclusive, but for a little later. But one thing I really appreciate about Harley Quinn, from what I've seen, is that it's unabashedly adult. Like they're like, we don't care. We want to tell a unique story, something goofy. It has an Adult Swim feel. And so I think that could be really fun and different, and something the market's missing.
Oh yeah, something like that. Heck, I'm hopeful that it can turn to something like maybe of a DC Universe version of Final Space, if you ever heard of that show. Something like that, but also has the heart. Of the heart and the the heart of the show.
Well, speaking of heart,
also that a little bit funny, but also the heart.
Right. Speaking of the heart, though, it's like one thing that's really cool about it is it's about Harley Quinn breaking up from Joker. It's about breaking up and probably, but not confirmed, falling in love with Poison Ivy, which makes sense a lot from a diversity and like of increased focus on LGBTQ
And
stories.
besides, and not only that, it was kind of implied in the Batman animated series.
Well, yeah, right. It's always been implied.
And such, which is, it's interesting,
right.
but it's something
always, it's always been implied, but it's never been really done, with the exception of Injustice's universe, the comic, where the two have been married, but that's the only instance where that's happened. And so it's been something that's been missing for a while. And I think it's time to finally tell that story.
Yeah. But hopefully it's good, and I want this to be something that, again, has heart. It has some, like, nasty, crude jokes, but also has the heart. That is what it will continue on. If it's not too of a hilarious, and I want a hilarious and funny, but also just, make sure that it's like, okay, it has heart.
Yeah. I do think that's a lot of heart, by the way.
Heart.
One thing I really liked, and watch the trailer if you haven't, but Harley Quinn is like beating up the Joker. Like I was thinking about, I was like, the Joker is not actually that good of a fighter, but he's like he's iconic because he's great at sowing chaos and forcing Batman away to rescue people. But see, the Joker is like uses that as his tactic to fight Batman, is putting other people in harm's way. Harley Quinn doesn't care about the other people as much. She's like, and she wants to prove that she's the best villain, that she can be the biggest Batman villain. And we'll see if it becomes more about her learning to be a little bit more of a hero. But I think one thing that'll be great to start is it's just like Harley Quinn goes and she tries to take down Aquaman and these sorts of stuff, and just prove that she's stronger than everyone thinks she is. And so I think that'll be really fun. It's also
going to be very interesting to see how she hands up, because again, she's not super powerful. She's just some crazy person that is immune to poison. But
is she immune to poison? Is she immune
because of her dip of the chemicals and such?
Yeah, but does that make her immune to poison?
I think that's she is.
Okay, that's really interesting. But one thing that was really cool is I was reading some of the panel transcriptions, and one thing I thought was really interesting is that Poison Ivy plays a massive role, and that it's about one of the things that's great about Poison Ivy, and this has always been true, but Poison Ivy doesn't see herself as a villain. She's not villainous. She believes in protecting the environment. And in an age of climate change that's starting to fall apart, that's something I'm really I'm hoping gets explored a lot.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a time to do so. So, I mean, I think they can do something very interesting with that. So,
I feel like what's kind of nice is they started development on this 3 years ago, but a lot of the issues that when they started developing it, a lot of the things that they were looking at are become an increasingly important topic in the modern world. And I will admit I'm super liberal, but but it's something I really appreciate, and I think they've set themselves up really nicely for it. And of course, remember, Adult Swim is normally fairly political, unlike a lot of other shows. So I think there's a room for it to be a little political there.
Oh yeah. Besides, this DC universe, there's not much of, say, oversight and such. But my hope is that it doesn't get overwhelmingly political.
No, I don't think it will.
I hope it doesn't. And I want it could be good stories wrapped around that stuff. Because again, people will take a lot of things. If it's a good story and something that connects to people will like, hey, you know what? I'm all in on it.
I could totally see an episode where it's like climate change is falling apart and everything's going horrible, and then it's like Harley Quinn and Ivy have to stop it, and it's just off the walls goofy in the process, because that feels like a sort of story that could be really funny and work very well in an Adult Swim setting. I was thinking about this. I don't think we'll ever get a season 2. Because it took 3 years to do.
But you never know if it's if it is something that people. I mean, heck, they might be showing on HBO Max if it's that positive, and they might say, "Hey, give you more money." And again, if this is good enough. So
yeah, I do want to say one more thing about though. for those who didn't know, it is serialized, which means every episode will follow it up until the next. So with a lot of the animated shows, it's like each episode is self-contained, and then there's one big overarching story at the end. For example, Batman the Animated Series did have big bad moments and did slowly develop over time. But if you watched episode 1 versus episode 5, you didn't gain or lose anything other than that's Batman. And even when the Joker fought twice, it's like they didn't recognize that they'd fought before or how he got out for a while. And it did get a little bit more that way over time. But this is very much episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, whereas like something.
Yeah, but again, if it's a story is good enough, and in situations like that, I honestly can't. I think if it's good and it connects with the audience, don't be surprised when after the 26 episodes come out and there's a lot of positive feedback, like Young Justice.
Yeah,
they brought that back, and I honestly think, I know we're talking about Harley Quinn and such, but I think if it is connected to Harley Quinn too, if there's positive feedback, this will come back as well. But also Swamp Thing, which a lot of it's interesting there, is that that's getting a lot of positive feedback. So I will not be surprised if a year or two they are going to bring that back under HBO Max and such as well. So I think it will be a way to do this. But I think 3 years is a long time.
But it's a really long time, yeah.
It is, and such. But I have faith if this show is good and there is a positive thing in that show, I would not be surprised if it does come back.
I do want to say, Kite Man is going to be there. Kite Man is one of the greatest villains of all time because he doesn't make any sense and he's way too tragic. If you've ever actually seen his origin story, it's like the most sad thing you've ever seen. But it's like then his power or like his costume is just so unabashedly stupid that it's like it's just so good.
Books.
Yeah, I just love Kite Man so much. Okay, Tom King, please do it. If I had to ask Tom King to do one thing, by the way, he did announce a new series today. He's doing Adam Strange next and to replace Mr. Miracle. But Tom King, please, can you just do a 12-issue Kite Man series?
Well,
wouldn't that be the greatest thing?
Well, why not? It'd be interesting, to say the least.
Also, you don't have to do PTSD. Which, by the way, we're off track a little bit. The Adam Strange comic that's coming out is not going to be focused on PTSD for and trauma, which is like the very first Tom King series to ever not focus on trauma, I swear. But I guess so. Wait, no, Grayson didn't. Grayson wasn't about trauma, but which is also great. It's also super funny. But it'll be about like the current political climate and like fascism, and so it'll still be political. Don't get your hopes up. But it's going to be a non-political Tom King story.
Like I said, as long as the story is good, as long as that is good. So yeah. That's what it is.
Moving on, one of the big missing pictures. This is probably the biggest thing that was missing is Stargirl. Now everyone's worried. They're like, Stargirl got delayed, and now it's like, and Titans replaced it. But Titans isn't coming out in the same window as quite that Stargirl was. And Stargirl, we didn't hear anything about. We didn't get any new casting information, any clips, anything. They didn't get any of it. So I would be worried. Except, do you know when they started Stargirl? They started filming Stargirl before they even started filming Titan season 1. And the reason why it's taking so long is they're working their hardest with Jeff Johns to get this perfect. They want to make it as good as possible. And Applejack has said it's her favorite of the DCU shows. Which is telling because she's gotten a chance to see the first episode or so.
So yeah, I think Stargirl is coming. I think that's going to be something really interesting.
I'm excited for that. So, do you want to talk about MCU Phase 4? I know we're a DC podcast. I know we're a DC podcast. But it's like so hard not to talk about.
Well, honestly, I don't want this podcast to go on forever and such. But if you want, like, my personal thing quick, I'm like, hey, happy Blade's back. I'm sad that it's not Wesley Snipes. See Shang-Chi, that's okay, that's nice. Doctor Strange, Into the Monday, that thing looks hopefully.
I am so excited for it. It's also like scary, which will be great.
I hope, because I wanted to love Doctor Strange, but I felt like it was just so. It could have been a lot better, but
it could have. But I really liked it. I still liked it.
It's decent, and I think it's something I think hopefully the sequel can really go more in depth to.
And in both Endgame and Infinity War, Doctor Strange was just such an awesome character. Like his presence was like cheerworthy. Like every time he did anything, it was so funny. It was so exciting. It was so magical. And I want to see them do another movie. And Scarlet Witch will be in it. I'm also really excited for WandaVision and all the different TV shows.
Yeah, the shows look interesting as well. I hope they're going to do something more with these the characters, and it's Phase 4 that's actually going to be very, something really good coming out of all this stuff. I am a little worried about Thor 4 with Natalie Portman coming back. I just think there's the character. I'm like, with her version of Jane Foster, I just like, what did she do that she was really heroic and such? She just
Natalie Portman, like Jane Foster.
She was.
She's like somewhat heroic. I mean, in Dark World, she's like not. She's brave and she like gets possessed. But she's still.
She did all that stuff, but I'm like, I just didn't see like, okay, she's gonna be, I mean, they broke up, and I'm like off screen because Natalie Portman did not want to be a part of like, and such. She wants
to now. She does want to now.
She, and that's which is fine, but I'm like, unless the character has significant growth, to become Thor, I'm like, okay, fine.
Well, I do think if you're going to evolve and you're going to become something and you grow, I definitely think becoming Thor is the best way to have a character develop. Also, Tessa Thompson is playing a gay character now. Valkyrie's apparently gay, which makes me really excited.
I hope they do something with her.
Well, they said that she's looking for someone to be her queen. So yes, she's looking for love.
Yeah, if she is worthy or not. And Thor is going to be in doing that, Guardians of the Galaxy, which is nice. But I just how sad part is about Thor and such. He never really got restitution for his family being pretty much murdered and everything until honestly Endgame, when they talked about his mom and such, I just feel like they just dropped the ball on there, and Thor never really had that type of emotional and gathering moment. I think Kurt Summers done a great job as Thor, great job and such. But I think there should be more stuff to him, and he says he wants to continue making the movies because he loved making them. So I
wouldn't be shocked if Thor is his last one, and he passes the torch to Jane Foster and plays sort of or maybe a side character role, like a supporting character, and that Thor becomes Jane Foster. So Thor 5 and 6 will be Jane Foster stories.
Yeah, hopefully, but I hope that the character, and I know by the end of Thor 4 that she deserves the title and such, but not in a way that you're like, oh my gosh. Just like, really? It would just be, look, it just happened in comics, so blam it, here it is. I want actually her journey into her becoming the next queen, royal family of New Asgard, which I mean, that was something good. And I wonder, is that going to be how they're going to handle all the stuff in the new in this Phase 4. And by the way, speaking of Phase 4, where is the next Spider-Man movie? They had a bit of an interesting cliffhanger after Far From Home. They just leave that,
I know, right? I think it'll be Phase 5.
Yeah, they're gonna hold that thing off.
Because the big thing is, I read this, is that they actually aren't allowed to start developing 3 beyond script writing until they get past the $1 billion mark because of weird contract stuff. This is what's crazy. Spider-Man Far From Home, in order to get a sequel, has to make over $1 billion.
I don't get that. I never got that. It's stupid.
Well, it makes sense because Sony is the one who gets all the money from it, not Disney.
Disney gets most of it, but it's just,
no. Disney gets toy rights, gets all the toy money. Sony gets all the box office money. So what I think what it is Sony's like, we think we can get this amount. If you can get more than this amount, and you'll make us more money than we think we can get by our own, we'll let you keep going. But it's a super weird instance because Marvel Studios and Disney doesn't have the ability to
and then
make them.
And because Sony and such, which is just weird. It's just so weird.
Meanwhile, Sony is also creating.
By the way, supposedly a sequel is supposedly in development, but it's probably going to be a long while. So
we'll see. Yeah. Now, also part of it too is Sony is creating a Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man.
Because if they don't, guess what happens? It goes right back to.
No, that's not it. Because Far From Home is still keeps the contract going, so they are under no pressure to use the franchises.
No, it's not that. Is that they have to continue doing that Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man, because if they don't, I mean, the Spider-Man Far From Home, all the stuff in the MCU, that does not count.
It does count. It does count in the contract.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Not in what I hear, but
that's what I've heard. Is it does count. So they're doing it because they want money and they think they can get money, but they also feel like they need Spider-Man for a Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man. So anyway, that's all the time we have today. If you like this podcast, please let us know what you thought. Next week, we will talk about everything Comic-Con again, especially Harley Quinn, so that other people can give their thoughts in. And also, I am working on a special interview with a special guest and more. There's a lot to figure out still before that happens, so no promises, but you will be very excited about this guest. I'll tell you afterwards. Also, if we hit, or I'll tell Duke afterwards. Also, if we hit 10 subscribers on Google Play, we will expand to Apple Podcasts. Anyway, see you next week. Bye.
Peace.